Welcome back. Today I'm going to do something just a little bit different. I'm going to look at a game by one of my subscribers, but in this case it happens to be my 12-year-old daughter who was playing with the black pieces in this game. As you can see, I have the evaluation bar turned off and I have the lines turned off. What I'm going to try to do is go through this game and guess which moves were mistakes and blunders. I know there were a lot because my daughter did show me the game review that she ran right afterward, just the number of blunders, misses, etc. I'm going to try to figure out what actually helped one player win and one player lose, and then I'm going to run the game review and see how right I was. Now, since both these players were rated below 400 when the game began, there's probably going to be a lot. Hopefully, if you're low rated, you'll get something from this, but also for people at my rating, we ought to be able to recognize which moves that these low rated players play are bad. That's the idea here. I will say that the opponent who played with the white pieces, even though it shows that this rating is 207, that was after the game. They were rated 370 something before the game, but I guess they hadn't played Rapid in a while because they lost like 167 points or something for losing this game. And I think my daughter gained like 35 because she also hadn't played a rated Rapid game in a while. Okay, looks like the opening was H4. I won't go ahead and say that that's a blunder, but I'm positive that it's not the best opening for white. Although we do know, if those of you that have run game analyses afterwards with the computer, we know that many times later in the game, the engine will suggest playing H4 at some point, but that's usually after pieces are developed, after we have control over the center, and so on. My daughter responded with D4, which I think is pretty good. It does lay claim on a center square. It occupies a center square, which is what I've taught her is one of the points of the opening. The opponent then played A4. I'm going to go ahead and say that was at least an inaccuracy or a mistake. It doesn't lay any claims to the center. It does look like it aims to get the rooks out and control these squares, but aside from that, I am not sure. I think here my daughter got worried because she responded with H5. That might not be bad. It stops the advance of that H pawn. And again, she's the only one controlling any center squares here. And the opponent played B3, which gets out of the way of this bishop. And it does leave the knight two squares that can develop to, but if the aim of this move was to let the rook out, well, that didn't work because the rook can't get out now. And at least here, the opponent is pointing at a center adjacent square. This wider square around this center I call center adjacent squares. So it is at least attempting to control one of those. So that move probably wasn't horrible, but the opponent should still look at the center. And then here, I think my daughter realized what the opponent wasn't playing serious chess, and so she just played A5 as well. Finally, the opponent challenged a center square. Now, she did not take here. I'm going to guess that she should have either taken or pushed, but I don't know. Maybe she should have left it there. That pawn is defended, but she played G5. I'm going to say that was a mistake. It just loses a pawn right off the bat. One of the pawns that the king might want to castle behind, although at this point it looks like nobody's going to do any castling. But yeah, I think that's a mistake. Did the opponent take? The opponent did not. The opponent just supported their previously moved pawn, and I've noticed that my daughter actually has only used 7 seconds so far, and the opponent has only used 13 seconds. They're both playing very quickly, and they're only making pawn moves. If there hasn't been an actual mistake listed yet, there certainly are some inaccuracies. I don't know who's ahead here, but my daughter played F5. That has to be a mistake. Just almost positive. For one thing, not only could this pawn still be taken, but now you don't have a pawn back here to stop the other pawn. Once this pawn takes here, it's a passed pawn, technically speaking. And in that spot, it will be protected by the bishop, and the f-pawn's no longer there to stop it. Did they take now? No, now they played a center pawn. It looks like they're trying to do a zigzag pattern here, but they messed up because they moved both flank pawns forward. To complete the zigzag, you would need that h-pawn on h3. So their quest looks like it has been messed up. Instead of taking that, which I think I would have done, I think right here the best move for black has to be to take that with the d-pawn. If they take back, you take their queen and they lose castling rights. That's my guess. But my daughter just played e5. Well, now both of these pawns are toast, although that one is defended. And now, because we moved the e-pawn, those are both defended. But you don't want to take back on the g square there because of the bishop guarding it, right? Did the opponent capture any pawns here? No, the opponent tried to complete their zigzag, not realizing yet that they were not going to be able to get the full zigzag. And my daughter decided to control all of these squares right across the center line there with these pawns. The opponent did not take back. They played g4, which, again, the h-pawn is in the wrong place for the zigzag. And my daughter completed her quest of getting all the pawns on the 5th rank and controlling all the squares on the 4th ring. Okay, well, I hadn't looked at this game until just now, so I'm a little embarrassed that I decided to go through here, but I will just say for anybody who's listening who's a beginner, this is very bad, and that's pretty bad. I'm just going to say white definitely has an advantage here. Almost all of white's pawns are defended. Most of the front pawns are defended by the pawns just behind them. Several of the rear pawns are defended here by the queen and by the bishop, by the knight. This bishop has a path through here. The knight can come in here and here. This knight can come out here. And I think white's got to be ahead here, even though black is technically controlling more space. Black's pawns very few of them are defended, comparatively speaking. I mean, the rooks control those two out there, I guess. Actually, I guess all of them but the E pawn and the B pawn are defended. So maybe I misspoke. I don't know. That's a blunder. I'm just going to go ahead and say that that was a blunder. Certainly black has a lot more space to play around in, and my daughter did put a rook up here to have room to run, because rook's back here with all these pieces in the way can't do much. Now this rook can go all the way across the board. I'm just going to say that's probably not good because of this. Also this. I think right now white should take that pawn, the G pawn, with the bishop, because it would be protected by the pawn, and it would be threatening both the rook and the queen. That's got to be white's best move here. Did they play it? No, they did not. They moved the king up. I don't know if it would be good or not, but you can certainly have a protected check in one of those spaces, and then you would be controlling squares even deeper in the opponent's territory. My daughter got the other rook out. I'm going to guess that was a blunder too. This king here, both of those king moves had to have been blunders, especially that second one because it kept the bishop from doing its job. Okay, now we have the first capture of the game. The opponent took the D pawn. Of course, it can't be taken back by the queen because there's a pawn protecting it. Okay, that's a blunder because it just gives up a piece to this pawn. The pawn that has just moved should have caught your attention. If you weren't sure how pawns captured, you should know now because it just did that. Did they take the knight? Yes, they did take the knight. Okay. Well, you can take back with the rook, or you could squeeze in here with a check on the queen, with the queen on d4, which would win a rook. I'm just going to guess that would be the best move in this position. Queen to d4 check. My daughter got a bishop out. Okay. And she still has used less than 30 seconds, and we're on move 12. That had to have been at least a miss because, like I said, I'm pretty sure that was the best move here because you would have won a rook. At least I'm pretty sure. Let's see. The opponent captured the F pawn with the G pawn, and I'm just going to, it's, I think, pretty obvious that you should take back with the bishop. Is that what my daughter did? No, my daughter hung her bishop just like she hung the knight, but she did finally make a capture here, taking the C pawn. The opponent took the bishop as they should have. White's definitely ahead now. They have two passed pawns, both of which can be captured at any time, but they're getting very close and looking kind of dangerous here, and my daughter's down 7 points of material. Did she take one of those pawns? Yes, she did. Now the other one's definitely in danger, and if it moves forward, it's gone as well. 4 different ways. All 4 of these pieces can get that pawn if it advances, and 2 pieces can get it if it stays there. What did the opponent do? They came forward with the king attack. Well, now this pawn's in danger, so I'm going to suggest one of the rooks should take this front pawn here. Did she? Yes. Good. That protects this pawn. Now she's only down 5 points of material, and she has opened up lines here. I'm still going to say that checking up here would have been pretty good, possibly even better than taking that pawn with the rook right then, because it would have protected this pawn, threatened the king, and threatened the rook. So I'm going to guess she missed queen to d4 again. The opponent moved the king forward, attacking the rook, which is protected by the other rook. My daughter checked. Very nice. Problem with that is it gives up both of these pawns. Now the G pawn, if the king takes the G pawn over here, then anywhere this rook moves would be a discovered check by the queen. So I'm going to guess that the opponent should take the E pawn here, and they did. Now I don't know, but I'm just going to guess that bringing this king this far forward was a really bad mistake, and I'm pretty sure that right now my daughter has a mate in one. I think it's right here. Queen to d4. I think if she had played queen to d4 right now, the game would be over because this rook protects this rook, the H rook protects the F rook, and the F rook is cutting off all of these squares. The queen would be protected by the pawn and be cutting off all the rest of the squares, and nothing can capture it. So yeah, she had a mate in one right here. Did she find it? And I know she didn't because there are a lot more moves listed. She checked again with the rook. So the king went back. Now, again, mate in one right here on d5 this time. This time the queen doesn't need to be protected because the king can't attack it. That would cut off all of these squares. The rooks are cutting off these squares. The queen would protect the rook and this square, and the pawns are guarding those two squares. So yeah, she has a mate in one right there. She checked with the rook, which is not protected. I assume the opponent took it, yes. And then she brought her king to get the opposition. Okay, I have taught her about the opposition, but we were talking about endgames, but sometimes she likes to get opposition even when it's not appropriate because she knows the word, she knows the principle. It's when the two kings face each other one row apart, so neither king can move into those squares. In this case, the other king couldn't move into those squares anyway because the rook is there. Let's see what the opponent did. They took another pawn. Okay, now the queens are facing each other. That queen is not defended in any way. Did she take it? That had to have been a mouse slip. There's no way she just put it right there and stopped. Okay, well, I'll have to ask her about that, but they didn't take it. That was a blunder, I'm positive, because now she can still take the opponent's queen. They could have taken it with the bishop too, obviously. She got the pawn, but that pawn was protected by this queen. Did the opponent take back? They didn't. They checked down here. Okay, well, that's bad, and I am pretty sure the opponent had to have known that because the king can just capture it, and she captured it. Okay, well, that was probably the best move in the position. I'm looking around, I think it was the only move. Because, yeah, you can't move there, there, or there because of their king, and of course their queen covers those squares, and these squares, and these squares. So yeah, the only legal move was to take the queen. The opponent got the opposition once more. I really have no idea what should be happening here, but I would probably give a check just to get my queen out of danger. There's not a lot of safe squares down there because those pieces cover lots of squares, and this piece covers, whoops, not there, but you know, the other bishop. I would get my queen out of there with a check and start chasing that king immediately. She did. It went a little too far, though. She could have stopped here with a check. And the rook is gone. I guess the queen was safe. We probably should have moved the rook. Okay, I missed that one. Now we have another passed pawn. It can be taken because we have two pieces guarding that square, and they only have one. Did she take it? Yes, good. That had to have been the best move in the position. Now the opponent has two pieces attacking that square. I suggest either checking or getting that knight out of there. She did neither of those, but they're not going to take, I don't think, because she attacked their rook. Did they see it? They didn't see it. Did she take their rook? Oh, she took that rook. Okay, but now she's going to lose her bishop. If she had taken the other rook, she would still have her bishop. They would still have that rook, but she would still have a bishop. This way, they still have the other rook, and they're going to get her bishop for free, except they took a pawn. Is she going to take their bishop? That's got to be the best move in this position. She checked. Okay, maybe that was better. I don't know. And checked again. Lost another pawn. And checked again. Please don't take the A. Please don't take the A pawn. Please take the bishop that's been hanging all this time. She did not, and she didn't move to protect her own bishop. What in the world is going on? Okay, maybe she was attacking this undefended piece here, and I've lost track of which moves I said were going to be mistakes or blunders. But if you were going to move your queen that far over, why not go here, which protects this bishop and aims at their rook? The opponent checks with their bishop, which does nothing to protect the undefended knight, but forces a king move, and she moved forward, which I think was probably best. I have taught her that as well in endgames when most of the pieces are off the board, the kings need to start coming toward the middle. Usually that's not the case when there are still rooks and queens on the board, and the opponent still has also two knights and two bishops. I mean, the opponent has been missing this several turns. They found it? Okay. Well, that knight down there is still hanging, and that's a check. So I'm going to guess that her best move would be to take that knight. She found it. Okay. Well, maybe that was the reason that she moved over here earlier. That's a check. King cannot go into any of these squares because of our king in the opposition, and it can't go to that square because of the queen. So but that still leaves it 4 choices, though. Which one did they choose? They went down. Probably not the best choice, but I don't know what else there is. And I am going to guess that her best move would be to line up with these bishops because they're both just sitting there. But she moved her king. Okay. The opponent checked. Oh. That just hung the bishop. Did she see it? She did see it. Good. Oh, I thought she was going to lose her bishop for a second. I mean, lose her queen. She did see it. Okay. Wow, that actually was pretty good. That had to have been the best move in that position. And the opponent moved their bishop back 1. Let's see. Well, to protect that pawn. That probably wasn't the best way to protect it. Probably moving it forward would have been the best way to protect it. Just guessing here because from here, the pawn and the bishop would protect each other. and the bishop would still be patrolling a medium diagonal. But back there, the bishop only sees 4 squares. Let's see. Trying to think, what could... Okay, my daughter can check here and then pick off one of these pawns. Did she see that? I don't know if that's the best move. That's what I would have played here. Oh, she did. Good job. She's still down 5 points of material, but it's a queen. And the opponent has forgotten that they have these 2 pieces, and they've made this one far less active. So my guess is here, when they move out of check, she should be able to get at least 1 pawn. Did she get it? No. Oh, she went after the rook. The only safe square for the rook is right there, but then you would lose the knight. So she's going to get one of those pieces. She's going to get the rook. She got it. Okay, that had to have been the best move in that position. And now they're even on material. But as you probably know, the way of counting material doesn't quite always add up. 3 points for the bishop, 3 points for the knight, and 1 point for each of those pawns adds up to 9, which is equal to the queen. But the queen is far more powerful than those pieces. For one thing, these pawns are split. They cannot protect each other. This one is just hanging. It can't be protected on this turn, so you're going to lose it immediately. And as we already discussed, this bishop can go nowhere from where it is right now. This knight's squares are relatively limited, but it is the opponent's turn. They put the knight back, so she can just take that, and she did. Good for her. Had to have been the best move there. She seems like she's playing much better here near the end than she was at the beginning. But the opponent has a passed pawn, and they've moved it. And by moving it, they've also opened up this entire diagonal to their bishop. That was probably a good move. What should she play here? I think she's already guarding the next square where that pawn needs to go. I think if I were her, I would just put the queen right here on c2. That aims at the bishop, which you would want to defend in some way by moving it. It also aims at this pawn. It aims at this pawn. And it aims at this, continues to aim at the square in front of the other pawn. But what did she play? Oh, she went after the bishop that way. Okay. Not bad. Except it's only aiming at one piece, which can easily move, and it moved there. I'm going to guess she took it. It looks like the opponent at this point was trying to lose, and they took it. Or maybe trying to stalemate. I've seen opponents do that in the past. They played a pretty tight game, not like this opponent in the previous part of this game, but my opponents who play really tightly up until they're pretty sure that they're lost, and then they start getting rid of stuff, I guess hoping for a stalemate or hoping to make the game go faster without resigning. I don't understand. But anyway, the opponent is going to move one of their pawns. They did not. They moved a king. I'm pretty bad at guessing what the opponent is going to do. I'm a little better at guessing what my daughter's going to do. If I were her now, I think I would check, because you can checkmate with the king and the queen, but she doesn't have to check. She can take a pawn. I think checking with the queen on c6 would probably be the best move here. Okay. Well, she's guaranteed to win a pawn now. If she just wanted a pawn, though, she could have taken one. The king did not make any effort to take any of the pawns. Okay, she's cleaning up. That's actually not a bad strategy at a low level. If you have a queen or a rook and the opponent still has pawns on the board, if you're not entirely sure that you're ready to checkmate them, take the pawns, because then that way they can't get a queen by accident when you're not paying attention. And then you can work on the checkmate. And they both have plenty of time here, especially my daughter, who looks like she's playing very fast. The opponent makes another king move. It does look like they're hoping for a stalemate at this point, but I'm pretty sure she's just going to take this pawn. Yes. Okay, good. And the other one? Okay, she cleaned up. Now it's time to checkmate. Let's see if she remembers what I taught her last year, right after I learned the basic checkmates, like how to checkmate with just a rook and a king, just a queen and a king. Because before that, I only knew ladder mates, as maybe 2 years ago. Before that, for years, I knew how to do ladder mates. Sometimes I would checkmate by accident out in the middle of the board or something. But on an empty board like this, I knew how to checkmate with a queen and a rook, or 2 rooks, but not just a queen. But once I learned that, and once I learned just the rook, which is a little harder, I taught my children. Because I said, if you ever get in a situation where it's just a king and a pawn, and you get that pawn down there and you promote it and you have a queen, you have to be able to checkmate them. Does she remember? I haven't looked at the ending of this game. I think she told me she won, but I don't remember for sure. Maybe the opponent resigned. Maybe she remembered how to checkmate. What would I do in this situation? I think I would bring the queen down to either here or here. This one's probably better. Or even here. And the idea is, because of where this king, the opponent's king is, you want to trap it as close to any edge as you can. Front, the back, the left, or the right. Bringing the queen down here would cut off this entire file and trap the king on just 3 files. Bringing the king down to d1 would cut off this entire file, and the king would be trapped on half of the board. Bringing it to here, to d4, would trap the king in these 16 squares, which would be the smallest of those boxes. So that might actually be the best move. What did she play? How much time did she spend on that? Okay, she spent some time on this one. You see, she had been moving very quickly, but here she spent, what's 35 minus 8? 27 seconds? Okay. She spent 27 seconds and counted which of those rectangles would be the smallest, which is what I told her to do. You have to go to a safe square, obviously. You could get a smaller rectangle here, but then they would just capture you. Well, this opponent might not, but most opponents would. And because of the way queens work, the king cannot move closer to it, so the best move for the king would probably be to e6, so I'm going to guess they didn't go there. Oh, they did go there. Okay. Well, you can draw this square smaller to a smaller rectangle by moving the queen up 1, which would cut off a slightly smaller box. Is that what she did? No, she brought her king. Okay, that's not bad either. At best, this king can go back. Let's see. It did not. It came down. Okay, so now we can draw the box even smaller by bringing the queen to d6. Or you could draw it a little smaller by going this way, but that kind of allows the king out here. So yeah, I think d6 would be best. Okay, d5's not horrible. We now have the king trapped in a 12-box square. And it's not in check, but it does have to move, so it has 3 choices. Let's see which one it chose. It chose there. Okay, you've got it in this box here. If you move your queen very much, you're going to let the king out of the box. So I'm going to suggest bringing the king at this point. That's what she did. Okay. That might not have been the best move, but again, I'm the one that taught my kids how to play this, so they're probably going to play it like I would. Okay, now bring the queen this way because you trap the king in an even smaller box, or you're trying to trap it on the H file. You could take the queen down here to F3, and that traps the king in a smaller box over here. Okay, she did the closer one. Now the king is trapped in 6 squares. Some of them are cut off by the queen, so it only has a few choices here. It chose one of them. Now you got to drop the queen either to here or to there, but not here. If you put the queen on F7, it's a stalemate because the king will not have any legal moves and the game will be over. There are more moves left. So which one did she? Okay, good. Now the king is trapped in these 4 squares and really can't go to that one because of the queen controlling it. Now bring your king. Okay, good. She did remember. And that's mate. 4 different ways. That's mate, that's mate, that's mate, and that's mate. Okay. Well, the beginning was horrible. The middle game was, I think, worse, especially for the opponent. But even my daughter made some huge blunders there in the middle game. But she kept her queen on the board, and the opponent didn't, even though she hung her queen, and the opponent refused to take it or didn't notice it. For all I know, the opponent was in a coffee shop talking to friends and just tapping on their phone. That's the thing with internet chess. You never know what's going on with the opponent. They might have been crying in the emergency room, waiting for care and occupying their mind with the chessboard. We have no idea. But anyway, the end game was very good, I thought, on my daughter's part. I don't think she made any blunders or mistakes there, but I am going to run the game review. Okay, I think I was right when I said that the middle game was the worst there for both of them. There's a couple of huge ups and downs in the middle game. Now we see in the opening there were ups and downs, but not quite that big. Both players played with less than 30% accuracy. I just tried to highlight this number that you can't see here, but behind my camera view, it says that my daughter had 3 great moves, but she had 18 misses, 3 blunders, and 4 mistakes. The opponent only had 1 mistake, but had 8 misses and 12 blunders. Should we guess what the ratings estimator estimated? I'm going to guess it was very low. Okay, it says they both played like 100s. Oh, and I was right about the middle game. Okay, well, I feel a little better. The middle game, both of them blundered it pretty badly. And the opponent, it says, actually did a little bit better in the opening. I think I guessed that too. I said after the pawns got up there, I thought that white was doing a little bit better. And then my daughter did better in the end game, obviously, because she won. Okay. Well, let's see what happened here. Oh, it's facing the wrong direction. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Okay. Well, it says h4 is a book move. The bar is over there, but it definitely gave black an advantage. That is also a book move. Okay, so she played the right second move. I thought she did. And that was an inaccuracy, which I thought it had to have been. That is also an inaccuracy. But said that was good. Okay, well, I wasn't sure, but I thought it was better than the previous 2 moves. And that was okay. Okay, stopping those 2 pawns wasn't bad, considering that white had already played the A and H pawns. Black kind of needed to stop them, I guess. That is an inaccuracy. I'm going to switch to the analysis tab, which I should have done already. Okay, I said she should either take or push, I think is what I said, but I was wondering about pushing. Pushing is one of the best moves. Also knight to F6, but that was not good. Yeah, that was a mistake because they can just take it, and they are supposed to But they could also take this one. It doesn't matter. Either one of those is fine, but of course we remember that they did not take here, and now she's supposed to take that H-pawn, but she had already decided on her quest of getting all the pawns on the 5th rank. Stockfish does not recognize that as a legitimate quest, so it is going to count these moves as mistakes, inaccurate. It says to push G4. Oh, okay, I didn't even think of that. To exert control over there. But the quest, right? The opponent did not play any of their moves. That was counted as a miss. And now she should play bishop to b4 check. Ooh. And they would block with their bishop. And you would just leave yours there and move one up. Nice. Well, I didn't see that. I knew she was going to complete her quest at this point. And I did say here, yes. Okay. That is the top engine move, is taking the g-pawn with the bishop, which would threaten the queen and plant the bishop in there. We know the opponent didn't do it. Stockfish isn't quite sure, but it thinks she should take the e-pawn or the g-pawn. Taking this way would also be all right, and they would be about even. Both the players are about even right now, but we knew she was going to play d5, so she did. And now white needs to, well, really, g capturing f5 is the best move. I still would have thought about this one, but what do I know? The king moved there. That was a miss. We knew it was at least a mistake, and that had to have been a mistake. And here, h capturing g5 is again the best move, but not the bishop. Okay, this is the second best move. Well, I was wrong about that. I thought for sure that the bishop capturing there would be the best move. Well, for future reference, they're both pretty good for white, but I think most of us would probably have taken with the bishop, because then you're going to get the rook or the queen. But the opponent moved the king forward. Was I correct here about? No, I was not. I thought we should check on one of those two places to force it back, but no, it says we should take here. Wait, is that? Yeah, that's what I said. I said something about taking there, and then when they took back, we could get the queen. But it's not talking about that. It's talking about taking here, then they're going to take over here, and then you put the queen in on d5. Well, we were seeing d4. We were seeing d4 later. That was a blunder. Pretty sure it was. And now the opponent is supposed to take here, of course, which would immediately threaten the rook, or here, which would immediately threaten the rook. Really, that's their best move? I would have thought if they had done that, you could check or something. Oh, but no, then the bishop would get both of you. Okay. That was a miss. And now she needs to take on c4. But this is where she hung her knight, and the opponent is not even supposed to take it. That's not one of their 3 best moves. This is their best move. The a-pawn capturing the b-pawn. It's the only move that's not a blunder. That was actually counted as a miss, which is, as we know, is kind of a blunder. But I don't know why. It gets a piece. And I thought she should take back with the rook. I was wrong. She's supposed to take the c-pawn right now. But she got her bishop out. And again, they're supposed to take here. Well, now that's pretty obvious, because then you would have connected passed pawns and be threatening the rook, which is running out of squares to go to. But the opponent took over there, and queen to d4. This is where queen to d4 check starts happening, being one of the best moves. But it's not the best. Now, Stockfish has thought about it. It says take that a-pawn. Let the bishop hang. The 3rd best move is to take that pawn. But wait. Okay, no, she took the wrong way, but it was good. Okay, that startles me a little bit, that letting the bishop hang was what she was supposed to do, and she did that. Well, they took it, which was their best move. Now queen to d4 is still the best here, but she took one of those pawns, which is okay. White has a huge advantage here, as we knew they did. They're up 6 points of material, and we knew that was a blunder. Queen to d4. Okay, we did keep saying queen to d4 a lot. That would force the king in here. And you couldn't follow it there with the queen because of their bishop, so you would have to check with the knight. And you would have a mating sequence, but it would be tricky. But still, queen to d4 check would... I was saying to win the rook at this point, because I thought the king goes in here, and it's kind of hard to follow it up, but you could just win the rook, right? But she took the other pawn, which was counted as a miss, and the king went in there. Yep, now you have a mate in 2. This is what we said. That was a great move. And queen to d4 wins it. Yeah, okay, I was right about that. Mate, that's mate. That's not mate. But now, this is. And I said that it was. Oh, also f6. I didn't even see that one. Shame on me. But that's not mate, because they can take it. But wait, she still has mate in 2. Queen to d4 forces the king over 1. And then queen to d5 is mate. But she brought her king for the opposition. And of course, they can take this pawn now because... well, the bishop there would be skewering the king to the queen. They did not do that. They took another pawn. And now she has a mating sequence again, because, okay, this is where I said she had to take their queen, but she didn't. She went there. They're supposed to... No. Their best move is to take that pawn, not her queen, because it's a check, and then you would take the queen. But instead they took the pawn with the pawn, so she can take their queen now, but she didn't. They can take her queen now, but they didn't. Only one legal move. Okay. There were several more misses here, but we went through them. I think the opponent gave up a lot of their pieces unnecessarily, and my daughter managed to keep her queen on the board. Once they sacrificed their queen, then I thought she played pretty carefully. I know she didn't make the best moves possible from here on out, but she also didn't make the worst moves possible, so I'm proud of her, especially for that endgame. That was nice, right? She just checkmated them after clearing those pawns off. So, in case you hadn't played someone in the 200 to 400 rating range recently, this is what some of them play like, 2 of them anyway. I like to think that I could beat almost anyone whose rating range is actually there. And I'm not talking, I know there are some people that for fun lose a bunch of games and get down to a low rating range like this just so they can do whatever they want and have easy wins. But I don't think that's a good way to get good at chess. It might be good for your ego, I guess, for a little bit when you get some easy wins, but you're going to find it harder and harder to get back up to the level that you started at. I'm pretty sure, because you're doing bad practice. And I think the best way to get good or to stay good is to try to practice the right things. You're still going to lose games because you're playing tough opponents who are also trying to win, but laying down the good habits, I think, is got to be better than some of the people who come down here just for fun. I don't know if that was the case with the opponent. As I said, with internet chess, you never know what the opponent is going through or what's happening. For all we know, their parakeet or something was tapping their phone while they were in the bathroom. We don't know. But anyway, I was pleased that I spotted some of the stuff. I spotted a couple of the mates in ones there in the middle. Obviously, I'm not going to spot everything. Some of the stuff got a little intricate. Like I was surprised a few times by, you weren't supposed to take that pawn with the bishop. Okay. It still would have been okay if they did, but it wasn't the best move, and that surprised me. But anyway, if you needed an ego boost about your own chess and you're rated somewhere close to where I am, hopefully this helped with that. Thank you for spending your time here, and I'll see you next time.